about Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and it stars Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., and Emily Blunt. And man, this is simply a very, very different film than what I was expecting. So Cillian Murphy stars as the J. Robert Oppenheimer, the guy who invented the atomic bombs. And the marketing for this one was very interesting because I think the meme culture or simply the internet marketed this movie alongside with Barbie. And yeah, right now this week is still Barbenheimer week, which is really interesting. And I'm just really simply happy that it feels like a movie event. This entire week is a movie event. And I've always been a big fan of Christopher Nolan because of his Dark Knight trilogy. I've seen his other films like Inception, Interstellar. I still haven't seen his other recent films, but judging from the movies that I've seen that Christopher Nolan directed, he is simply one of the greatest living directors right now. He has his own ways of trying to make conversations very suspenseful. And Oppenheimer is a talkie. It's a movie all about simply conversations. And through these conversations, we learn the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer. And for a 3-hour movie, this thing went really fast because it is very beefy. There's just a lot of things going on in here, and there's just a lot of characters that had this kind of symphony of conversations. It really felt like you're watching The Social Network. One great thing about this movie is simply the performance, and the performance for each of the characters are great. They felt like real human beings, while at the same time they're trying to do this symphony that I've been talking about, which culminates into the very message of the film. And the very message of the film is the curiosity of man can lead to its extinction. Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer did an amazing job in this one, especially while he's trying to simply act his face. And when you look at the marketing, we only see most of the time Oppenheimer's face. His face tells a lot of sadness, anxiety, regret. And I can't blame the scientist himself, Oppenheimer, because he made a weapon of mass destruction. And there's a lot of comparison between him, the character Prometheus, because in the Greek mythology, is it Greek or? Yeah, it's Greek. So in this Greek mythology, Prometheus is the one who gave fire to humankind. And because of that, Prometheus was basically sent to everlasting torture. He has to carry the weight of the world on his shoulder. And Oppenheimer was simply on that position because he gave humanity the power to kill themselves. Just imagine giving that kind of weapon, giving that kind of knowledge to the most intelligent species here on planet Earth. That's why this film worked. It isn't about the 2 atomic bombs that drop in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but it is about Oppenheimer himself. The movie title. It explores about his loneliness in the world because he doesn't have anybody else who can share this kind of grief that he is experiencing. The probable grief of humanity's inevitable extinction, the use of his weapon. And there were some scenes that exactly displays that. Christopher Nolan was able to capture what it feels like to be in a society where you are simply alone, like you're trapped in a cage. You're still out there trying to put out a happy face because America sees him as the guy who ended World War II. But his intrusive thoughts are telling him that the bombs that he made is bigger than World War II itself. It is all about trying to make a new kind of world, a world where humanity cannot come back, a world where atomic bombs exist, which will put every nation in the world into each other's throats, right? I think the only person that can relate to him was Albert Einstein. Yes, that Einstein, played by Tom Conti. Because these are simply two minds that can simply see the bigger picture of the atomic bombs. There was actually this one scene where Oppenheimer was inside of a some kind of a gymnasium, and there were people cheering for him. And it's one of those scenes where from the outside he has to put a happy face, but in the inside he is really struggling. And I love the way Nolan shot that scene because he used the effects of an atomic bomb's explosion to exactly display whatever Oppenheimer was feeling inside. If you guys remember the Batman films, Ian Murphy played as the Scarecrow, and whenever Scarecrow is trying to use this gas to scare off his enemies and to scare off other people, Nolan shot those scenes when where the subject is in focus, but at the background everything was vibrating and everything was just simply shaking, like there's an earthquake happening at the background. And that kind of technique was used in that scene, which I think perfectly encapsulates what it feels like to be out there trying to hide a struggle within your mind, within whatever in Oppenheimer's mind during that time. And then, it's one of those scenes that plays a lot with Oppenheimer's loneliness, because it was established, like, during the first 10 minutes of the film, that people kind of bullies him. And that element of the film also played around the third act of the film, where even though he basically saved thousands of American people's lives, thanks to the bombs that he made, he was still getting bullied by people around him. The other players here, just like Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Lawrence Pugh, wow, they are great as always. I think this is Robert Downey Jr.'s best performance that I have ever seen. Robert Downey Jr. kind of stole half on the last half of the film. If you guys saw those trailers, black and white scenes, all of those things are from the perspective of Robert Downey Jr.'s character, which is Lewis Strauss. And I think his role here is really important because he kind of represents the US government. And, without spoiling anything, Oppenheimer basically has a lot of enemies here. Not only the struggle of being the father of the atomic bombs, but also society itself. But one of my favorite scenes here was from Emily Blunt's character, Kitty, which is Oppenheimer's wife. And there was simply this scene where she was trying to display, I don't know what's like the right term to use, but she was simply using the higher ground to win that scene. And man, that is simply one of the best scenes in the film. It really shows how strong of a character Kitty is. From the other side of the coin, we got Florence Pugh, who plays Jean Tatlock. And Jean Tatlock is like Oppenheimer's other girl. And her role here is very important because without trying to spoil anything, Florence Pugh represents death, like Lady Death itself. Because there were some scenes where Oppenheimer shares a very intimate moment with Pugh's character. And I think she represents Oppenheimer's intimate relationship with death because of his invention of the atomic bomb. And again, Nolan tries to show his directorial skills here because he used surrealism to show the story that he is trying to tell. And I think it really works. There's a lot of surrealism elements in this film, and it simply adds to the theme of the story. Like, the world is very weird, the world is very fragile, very easy to disappear, and that we are just made out of atoms, just bones, flesh, stardust, and stuff like that. And it gave me a really uneasy feeling knowing that whatever is happening on the screen happened in real life. And it is something that our current generation is still facing right now. It really feels like we're on the brink of extinction because of the ways Nolan was trying to tell the story of this movie. And just like I said, this is a very big cast. There's this guy who played Freddie Mercury from the Bohemian Rhapsody film. We also got Josh Peck as one of the scientists, like from Drake and Josh. We got the other guy who was like the main guy from The Boys. And we also have the new Han Solo from the Solo story film. And now let's talk about the atomic bomb itself. First atomic bomb tested during the Manhattan Project, the Trinity test, the gadget. All I can say is that for a film that is very loud because of all the dialogue that's been happening throughout the entire movie, and it's also a 3 hour movie too. It was during the explosion itself where it felt like it is the most peaceful moment of the film. Nolan was able to capture this idea that even though the atomic bomb is a weapon of mass destruction, it is also very beautiful to look at. And you can see all of the science happening in that specific shot. Nolan was able to edit out that scene in a way that perfectly captures what it feels like to see an atomic bomb explode right in front of you. But I was expecting more though. I was really expecting more. That's just that is just like my minor gripe, because Oppenheimer's marketing is just simply all about explosions, like, fire, a lot of red, a lot of oranges. 90% of the film, it's simply all about people talking. That's why it took me 2 screenings to fully understand the film. The first time I watched it was in Cinemark in fake IMAX, and it was really disappointing. The first 2 hours of that film, the audio and the video wasn't synced properly. That's why there's a very significant delay in the dialogue. I was even thinking of just simply walking out and get a refund. Since this is a Nolan film, there's a lot of talking. It feels like I missed 40% of the dialogue itself. That's why I decided to watch it again on AMC and IMAX Laser. At the same time, I also have those closed captioning gadgets right in front of me. So while watching the film, I was able to also read the subtitles to fully understand this Nolan dialogue heavy film. And my second viewing was way better. I fully understood the jokes in this film. I fully understand the complications of each of the characters on why they are here in this movie itself. And yeah, it's a movie that is very non-linear, so you really have to do a lot. I mean, the audience itself really has to do a lot of juggling in their mind just to fully connect the dots on what Nolan is really trying to tell in this story. But by the end of the day, this is a story about Oppenheimer and the struggles of being the father of the atomic bomb. This movie is a cinematic masterpiece, no doubt. And I'm simply happy that this movie exists, especially in the world we are living right now. It kind of feels like we're living in the new Cold War, especially with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. And I do hope movies like this will lead to new conversations. And I do feel like this movie should exist so that the new generation can learn more about the dangers of having atomic bombs resting all around the world. And you know what? For a 3 hour movie, I did talk to some of my friends, those friends that are very casual when it comes to movies. And I am actually afraid that they might not like the movie, because this movie isn't for everyone. There's not a lot of actions in it, and just like I told you guys, there's a lot of dialogue, and I was afraid that some of my friends wouldn't like it, but as it turns out, they really love it. They were simply amazed by this film itself. My brother really liked it. I really like it. My friends really like it, which just really goes to show that even though Nolan directed a very heavy film, a very depressing film, a film that is very hard to watch when it comes to accessibility. The fact that everybody that I know loved the film really tells us that Nolan is simply a master when it comes to storytelling. I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. While I gave this one a 10 out of 10, I still feel like The Dark Knight is the better Nolan film out of the movies that I've seen. Oppenheimer is easily the second best Nolan film that I've seen so far. And actually, I was actually planning to watch Barbie first. When I found out about Barbie and Oppenheimer releasing on the same day, my plan was to watch Barbie first. But then me and my girlfriend decided to watch it together, and I will be in Los Angeles next week. So yeah, I had to delay my screening of Barbie, but that's fine. I heard Barbie is also great. Yeah, man, what a time to be alive, right? I mean, this week has been amazing. Barbie has been great. Oppenheimer has been great. And from what I'm reading and from what I am hearing, the two directors, Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig, they didn't settle. They didn't settle for the expectations of the people. Nolan didn't settle with a movie just about atomic bombs and explosions and blockbusters, stuff like that. Oppenheimer is a very deep movie that shares a lot of knowledge and lessons about the dangers of the atomic bomb, which I think is very significant. While at the same time, Greta Gerwig was able to make a Barbie movie that tells a lot about how Barbie shaped the mindset of the society itself when it comes to women. And great job for Mattel for even acknowledging that Barbie was the idea of Barbie is very, I mean, can be really dangerous because, humanity is simply not capable of perfection. And whenever I see Barbie, Barbie represents the perfect female. And from what I am reading, the Barbie movie is trying to acknowledge the fact that Barbie itself is a bad role model. And I'm just really curious to see the movie next week with my girlfriend. So, what do you guys think of Oppenheimer? And what do you guys think of this week's Barbenheimer? Have you guys seen Barbie and Oppenheimer as a double feature in a day? Which movie do you like better? And also at the same time, is this your favorite Nolan movie? So see you guys around. Wait for my Barbie review someday. Hopefully I'll be able to review it with my girlfriend and maybe have some conversation about it. But yeah, that's my review for Oppenheimer. See you guys next time. Goodbye and take care and God bless.